Welcome back to the PowerShell parameter validation series. In this last video here, we are going to be looking at validating multiple options. So in the last video, we were trying to do a regular expression pattern that allowed for an alphabetic character, a dash, and then a digit. Anything that came before that alphabetic character and anything that came after that digit was allowed. And so we could have like AA-41. But in this example, what we want to do is we want to take the same requirement, and we see that this time the parameter is, of course, true here instead of the pattern. So this is set to false. We're going to combine what we had before with a validate length, which is only going to allow for 3 characters. And then we're going to validate the parameter, which is going to be the same parameter that we had, or the same pattern, validate pattern that we had before, which is the A through Z dash, and of course a digit. And so in this case, we're doing basically a double validation. So we should, based on what we have in front of us, we should only have 2 of these pass. Everything else should fail because only these 2 follow this rule. So when we execute this, that is exactly what we see, is that only A through 1 and Z through 4 pass. And as we see here, the standard error, it's not going to be able to validate the argument on double because it doesn't match that pattern in this case. And then, of course, on the the 4th one, we'll notice that the error is cannot validate the parameter on double because the character length of 5 is too long, right? So in this case, it doesn't, yes, I love that about PowerShell. In this case, it doesn't validate the regular expression pattern. In this case, it doesn't validate the length, and so the length catches it. We can, with functions in PowerShell, use combination validations. So if you want, you can combine various things. If you're only allowing, let's say, let's take phone numbers as a case in point. If you only want to find the phone numbers that are not over, let's say, 10 digits for whatever reason, US number, then you can put the length in, and then you can put in some type of pattern. I don't believe that phone numbers in the US are allowed, at least for now, are allowed to start with a 1 in the area code. At least last that I knew, I think it had to be greater than 1. So you may have a specific, regular expressions pattern that you find. You'll allow for anything, but if you're doing a full, I'm sitting here thinking on the fly, 6 and 4, well, actually maybe 11, depending on what you're starting with. Well, depends on what you're starting with. But so if you're going to allow the 10 digits would be with the area code. That's 6 and 4, yeah. So if you're going to allow the country code, that's going to be 11. But if you're only doing 10, let's say, and you're only allowing, you're skipping the country code, then the 10th, the very first digit, you may, let's say, start at 2. You say, won't allow for 0 and won't allow for 1. And again, I'm not sure if that's the rule anymore, but at least at one point, I never saw a number that began with 1. And then, of course, you'll allow anything after that. So you can do a combination, as you see, with regular expressions. It depends on what you're using it for, but the idea is that it can be nice to sometimes validate the length first, and then after that validate something like maybe the regular expression, or maybe it's validate a range or whatnot of values.